Ukraine's military used American-made ballistic missiles on Tuesday to strike into Russia for the first time, according to senior U.S. and Ukrainian officials, just days after President Biden gave permission to do so, in a major shift of American policy. The pre-dawn attack struck an ammunition depot in the Bryansk region of southwestern Russia, Ukrainian officials said. Russia's Ministry of Defense said that Kyiv used 6 ballistic missiles known as ATACMS for Army Tactical Missile System. A senior American official and a senior Ukrainian official, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss ongoing operations, confirmed that ATACMS were used. The strike represented a demonstration of force for Ukraine as it tries to show Western allies that providing more powerful and sophisticated weapons will pay off by degrading Russia's combat capabilities and relieving pressure on Kyiv's overstretched forces. The attack came on the same day President Vladimir Putin lowered Russia's threshold for the use of nuclear weapons, a long-planned move whose timing appeared aimed at showing the Kremlin could respond aggressively to Ukraine using American missiles to strike Russian territory. The Kremlin has throughout the war used the threat of deploying its nuclear arsenal to try to deter the West from providing more robust military support to Ukraine. On Tuesday, Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, called Ukraine's use of ATACMS in the Bryansk region a signal that they want escalation, a reference to the U.S. and Western allies. Ukrainian officials and military analysts, who have long cautioned that no single weapon will change the course of the war, noted that the impact of the shift in White House policy will depend on the quantities of missiles being supplied. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine had pleaded for months for permission to use ATACMS to strike military targets inside Russia. The Biden administration finally relented and gave its assent, a decision that was driven in part by the addition of up to 10,000 North Korean troops to Moscow's war effort. The authorization came just 2 months before the return to office of President-elect Donald J. Trump, who has said he will seek a quick end to the war in Ukraine. His election has cast uncertainty over whether the U.S. will maintain the robust military support it has provided Ukraine under Mr. Biden, or whether Mr. Trump might take a different approach on policy toward Ukraine. On the battlefront, Russia is leveraging its advantage in air power, artillery, and personnel to melt through defensive lines in southeastern Ukraine. By taking aim at logistics centers like the one targeted on Tuesday, Ukraine hopes to make it more difficult to supply Russian forces engaged in relentless assaults. The Ukrainian military's high command, known as the General Staff, said that Tuesday's attack took place at 2:30 a.m., destroying warehouses with ammunition and triggering a dozen secondary explosions. Andriy Kovalenko, a representative of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, said that the strike in Bryansk hit warehouses housing artillery ammunition, including North Korean ammunition for their systems, guided aerial bombs, anti-aircraft missiles, and ammunition for multiple launch rocket systems. Russia's Ministry of Defense said in a statement that it shot down 5 of the ATACMS and that another was damaged. It said that falling fragments caused a fire at a military facility, but there were no casualties. Neither side's claims about the impact of the strikes could be immediately independently verified. Russia has robust and layered air defense systems, including S-400 batteries designed to counter ballistic missiles like the ATACMS. The S-400 and the newer S-500 are similar to the Western-made Patriot systems used to protect Ukrainian skies. Since the first longer-range ATACMS arrived in Ukraine in April, Kyiv has used its limited supplies of missiles to target those Russian air defense systems in occupied areas of Ukraine, particularly in Crimea, with some success according to satellite imagery, military analysts, as well as Ukrainian and Western officials. The ATACMS have also been used in successful strikes on airfields and other bases, according to satellite imagery and military analysts. But throughout the war, the moment one side introduces a new capability, the other side works to adapt. Russian effectiveness against ATACMS missiles will likely increase, even if slowly over the course of the conflict, as Russia trains air defense crews to address the threat, Jake Mezey, a security expert, wrote in a report for the Atlantic Council in September. The U.S. supplied Ukraine with ATACMS for the first time in October of 2023, but the missiles were designed to hit targets only about 100 miles away. The Biden administration only provided a small number, less than 2 dozen in the first shipments, and the move came only after a Ukrainian counteroffensive that summer had already failed. In April of 2024, the U.S. agreed to secretly provide ATACMS with a range of 190 miles to Ukraine. However, the Biden administration restricted their use to targeting Russian forces located in Ukrainian-occupied territory, including Crimea. As Kyiv pressed Washington to lift those restrictions, it continued to develop its own weapons capable of hitting targets in Russia, including ballistic missiles. The munitions depot in the Bryansk region is more than 70 miles over from the Ukrainian border. Mikhailo Samis, deputy director at the Center for Army Conversion and Disarmament Studies in Ukraine, an independent institution, said the introduction of ATACMS could have an immediate impact. Russian command posts, military units, logistical support systems, ammunition depots, aviation bases, missile launch systems, air defense systems, radars, and other key assets are all now within range of one of the most powerful weapons in the Ukrainian arsenal, he said. Everything depends on how many missiles Biden will give and how quickly, he said. If hundreds of rockets enter there, then it will be good. We'll be able to make a few mass rocket strikes. But even if Ukraine is able to damage Russia's ability to wage war, Kyiv's forces will still be vastly outgunned and outmanned, requiring the kinds of weapons that both armies tear through at a furious rate. Artillery ammunition has been one of Ukraine's persistent needs throughout the war, and soldiers said they are still facing shortages, compounding the challenges posed by a lack of manpower. The European Union only recently fulfilled its goal of providing 1 million rounds to Ukraine's war effort, 8 months behind schedule. The bloc's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell Fontelles, said in a statement published on Monday after a recent visit to Kyiv that the European Union has supplied Ukraine with more than $47.5 billion in weapons, and by the end of 2024, will have trained more than 75,000 of the country's soldiers. Still, he said, we give Ukraine just enough to hold, and sometimes even less, while Russia has put its entire economy on a wartime footing and counts with the unconditional backing of North Korea and Iran. Maria Varenikova contributed reporting from Kyiv, and Lara Jakes from Rome.